In January 2022, a man wearing a bucket-style hat, sunglasses, and 2 scarves walked into an independent healthcare clinic in Wahu, Hawaii. Less than a minute later, the man left, and 47-year-old John Tokuhara was found dead inside. Although there appeared to be ample evidence, security cameras, shell casings, and even the hat the suspect had worn, it became clear that identifying the killer would be far more difficult than expected. What initially seemed like a straightforward case soon revealed layers of complexity. This story is about the investigation and prosecution that followed, which surprised many people. What seemed like a clear path towards solving the case gradually became muddied as new evidence surfaced, old evidence was questioned, and the entire narrative shifted. Wahu, a town in Honolulu County, Hawaii, sits along the northern shore of Pearl Harbor. Once home to sugarcane plantations, it is now a community of about 40,000 residents. On the morning of Thursday, January 13, 2022, the weather was warm and clear. At around 8 a.m., Lily Tokuhara set out to check on her 47-year-old son, John. John had operated a healthcare clinic in the town for nearly 20 years. The previous evening, he had told his mother that he would come by to pick up dinner she had made for him, but he never showed up. When Lily arrived at the clinic, she saw John's white Tacoma parked outside. She entered through the back door, which was unlocked. The front door had not been used for 6 months and was secured with a chain. Inside, Lily found John lying on the floor of his office, a pool of blood by his head. He was unresponsive. Frantic, she called emergency services, but it was clear that any attempts at medical aid would be futile. John was already gone. Officer John Minter from the Honolulu Police Department was the first to arrive. He found a single .22 caliber shell casing on the floor, and later, 2 more casings were discovered, one under John's body and another behind a refrigerator. An autopsy confirmed that John had been shot 4 times, mostly in the head. The brutality of the murder, with multiple shots to the face, suggested a crime driven by personal motives, possibly passion. Yet, curiously, about $4,000 in cash was found near John's body, untouched, signaling that robbery was not the motive. John Tokuhara had never been married and had no children, but he was close to his family, particularly his mother, and he was a devoted uncle to his sister's 2 boys. He had a deep love for the ocean and enjoyed fishing, surfing, and paddling. After earning a master's degree in Chinese medicine and acupuncture, he opened and ran his clinic for nearly 2 decades. John's friends and family spoke highly of him, and his death left the tight-knit community of Wahu in shock. As the investigation unfolded, what had initially seemed like an open and shut case turned into a complex mystery. John Tokuhara was a beloved acupuncturist who had made a significant impact on his community. He was known for his kindness, helping countless people, and giving back in various ways, including offering scholarships. His friends came from all walks of life, and he was admired by many. Tragically, someone took his life, but they couldn't take away the love people had for him or the love he had shown to others. It would take time for investigators to unravel the mystery behind his murder. Initially, no clear suspects emerged after speaking with John's family and friends. He had been well loved, and no one could identify a motive. Investigators began piecing together his last known activities, tracing his movements from the night before his body was found. In John's office, 2 cell phones were discovered. One was his primary phone, while the other, only functional with Wi-Fi, was used for playing the game Pokemon Go. The game had been active on this phone the previous evening, beginning at 5:40 p.m. and remaining open until 8:45 p.m. when the phone died. It was unclear whether John had been playing the game during that time or if he had been killed while the phone was still on. John's mother, Lily, had last heard from him around 6 p.m. when he texted her to arrange picking up dinner. After that, there was no further activity on his main phone after 6:18 p.m. Using this time frame, detectives collected security camera footage from the surrounding area to search for anything unusual. At 5:57 p.m., a white, 4-door Silverado pickup truck with Hawaii plates was seen turning onto Wahu Depot Street near John's clinic. After making a few quick turns, the truck disappeared from view, but moments later, a person appeared on foot, heading toward the clinic from the back. This individual was wearing a light-colored bucket hat, dark sunglasses, a head covering, and a scarf, carrying a brown shopping bag. The person entered John's clinic at 16 p.m. as the last activity on John's phone and left just 48 seconds later. No one else entered or exited the clinic until Lily arrived the next morning. Footage from another camera captured the Silverado driving past businesses on Wahu Depot Street. Law enforcement enhanced the image of the license plate, which appeared to show 3 letters followed by 3 numbers. While the exact combination was unreadable, the truck became the investigators' most promising lead. The Honolulu Police Department's Strategic Enforcement Detail identified 53 registered Silverado trucks in Hawaii that matched the description: 4 doors, white, likely from 2014 to 2016, and a plate with 3 letters and 3 numbers. Through a process of elimination, inspecting the vehicles in person, reviewing photographs, and checking ownership details, investigators ruled out 52 of the trucks. Only 1 remained as a potential match to the truck captured on the security footage. The last remaining white Silverado in the investigation was registered to a 34-year-old man named Eric Thompson, who had once been a client of John Tokuhara. Eric, who owned a successful contracting business, had sought treatment from John for carpal tunnel several years earlier. Though there was a connection between the 2 men, it seemed tenuous at best. Eric was married to his high school sweetheart, Joyce, and the couple had a 3-year-old daughter. He didn't seem like a likely suspect. What motive could he have for killing a man who had treated him years earlier? As detectives combed through John's main cell phone, they uncovered thousands of messages exchanged with a woman named Joyce Thompson, Eric's wife. In 1 month alone, the two had sent over 5,600 messages, many of them extremely intimate. The couple had shared nude photos, videos, and explicit texts, revealing that their romantic relationship had been ongoing for some time. However, it had ended abruptly about 7 months before John's murder, when Eric discovered the affair. John appeared to have been more invested in the relationship than Joyce, as he was the first to say "I love you" and continued to express his deep feelings for her. He frequently pressed Joyce to leave her husband and make their relationship long-term. Joyce, while a willing participant, was more hesitant. She expressed her unwillingness to leave her husband but continued seeing John for a while. Eventually, Joyce grew anxious about the secrecy of the affair and the potential damage to her marriage. In July 2021, Joyce informed John that Eric had discovered the affair. Eric confronted her after noticing her sneaking out of their home at 1 a.m. on their security cameras while he was away for work. Joyce confessed, agreeing to end the relationship with John. She and Eric then decided to work on repairing their marriage. Eric and Joyce had met at Kalani High School in East Honolulu and were married on January 14, 2017, the anniversary of their 13 years together. Their wedding took place at a beachfront estate, surrounded by family and friends. The couple later moved to Kilauea, a 30-minute drive from Wahu, where they shared many milestones, including Eric's graduation from the University of Hawaii and the birth of their daughter 2 years before John's death. Their seemingly perfect marriage, however, had its struggles. Joyce initially started seeing John for acupuncture treatment to help with fertility and back pain after a miscarriage, hoping to conceive again. Eric believed John was helping both him and his wife through a difficult time. After their daughter was born, however, Joyce continued her appointments, and her relationship with John deepened into an affair. With these revelations, both Joyce and Eric became persons of interest in the murder investigation. Law enforcement confirmed that John's murder was not a random act but was tied to the romantic relationship between John and Joyce. Search warrants were executed on their home, vehicle, and personal belongings. However, both Joyce and Eric were uncooperative with the investigation and had retained legal counsel. Eric Thompson left his home in his white 2014 Silverado at around 5:20 p.m. on the evening of John Tokuhara's murder. The truck was seen driving towards the highway, but there weren't enough surveillance cameras along the route from the Thompsons' house in Kilauea to the acupuncture clinic in Wahu to create a complete record of his journey. However, the timeline fits if the Silverado spotted on Depot Street around 6 p.m. was indeed Eric's. The drive time aligns closely. Google Maps data indicated that the trip from the highway entrance to the clinic would take between 35 to 55 minutes, depending on traffic. The truck was first caught on surveillance near the clinic at 5:57 p.m., 37 minutes after Eric left his driveway. At 6:47 p.m., cameras showed Eric returning home. Detectives believe that shortly after the crime, Eric attempted to destroy any evidence. Less than an hour after his return, neighbors' cameras captured a glow from a fire in Eric's backyard that lasted around 5 minutes. Eric also left his house again later that night, and on this second trip, a toolbox appeared in the bed of his truck, something that had not been there earlier. He returned around 10:43 p.m., with the toolbox still visible. A search of the Thompson residence uncovered little direct evidence linking Eric or his wife, Joyce, to the murder. However, investigators found circumstantial clues that raised suspicion. A bucket in the backyard, sitting inside a wheelbarrow, showed burn marks, suggesting that items had recently been burned. The Honolulu Police Department also seized 12 registered firearms belonging to Eric, along with 2 unregistered guns. 2 of these weapons were .22 caliber rifles, the type believed to be the murder weapon, but ballistics testing found no match. Over 10,000 rounds of .22 caliber ammunition were also found, prompting further speculation about what might have been in Eric's truck during his second drive that evening. One key piece of evidence was the light-colored bucket hat worn by the suspected shooter, captured on camera as they entered and exited the clinic. After the shooter left, the hat fell to the ground and remained there for about 10 minutes before being picked up by a passerby. The individual, a homeless man, later admitted to wearing the hat briefly before hanging it in his tent. Forensic testing of the hat revealed fibers and a hair, along with 2 DNA samples swabbed from the inside. Though the results were inconclusive, Eric Thompson could not be excluded as a potential source of the DNA. On February 14, 2022, Eric Thompson was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. He posted a $1 million bond and prepared for trial. Eric pleaded not guilty, and the trial began in July 2023. During the trial, the prosecution focused on Eric's motive, his wife Joyce's affair with John Tokuhara, and the nature of the killing, describing it as a personal, anger-fueled attack with 4 gunshots to John's head. The state painted a picture of Eric as a controlling perfectionist, a man who had worked hard to build a successful business and save for a $2 million home. They emphasized that Eric had discovered Joyce's affair not once, but 4 separate times. Over 5,600 direct messages between Joyce and John revealed the intimate nature of their relationship, including explicit photos and videos, all of which fueled Eric's growing rage. This was personal. To reclaim the perfect life he believed he deserved, Eric Thompson had to eliminate the one man who threatened it all. As long as John Tokuhara remained alive, Eric's world would never be whole again. And so, he made a plan to fix it once and for all. The prosecution argued that Eric Thompson played a dangerous game of how to get away with murder but failed, thanks to the relentless investigation of the Honolulu Police Department. Officers spent weeks reviewing surveillance footage, piecing together the timeline of John's murder. For a while, it seemed the case was straightforward: a man consumed by jealousy who executed a brutal, personal vendetta. But when it came time for Eric's defense to present its case, the once clear narrative fell into chaos. The defense peeled back the layers of John Tokuhara's seemingly perfect life, revealing a far more complicated and controversial figure. The affair with Joyce Thompson was not John's first with a married woman. In fact, several witnesses came forward to testify that John had been involved in numerous extramarital relationships over the years, some even leading to divorce. His personal life was filled with secrets, and his romantic entanglements had shattered other marriages before Joyce's. But it didn't stop there. Alongside the romantic messages found on John's phone were indications of illegal gambling activities, which the defense argued were never fully investigated. They pointed to the $4,000 in cash found at the murder scene as evidence that John had other secrets and perhaps other enemies. You will hear evidence that John Tokuhara had a track record of getting involved with women who were already in relationships, the defense team told the jury. We didn't follow up on those leads. We didn't follow up on his gambling. There's massive reasonable doubt here. The defense called witnesses who testified about John's involvement in their failed marriages. One of them, John DeMarco, recounted how his wife, also one of Tokuhara's patients, began an affair with John that led to their divorce. DeMarco, now remarried, harbored no ill will toward John, acknowledging that the acupuncturist had become a father figure to his daughter. Good riddance, DeMarco said, recalling how he felt at the time. He could have her. I just wanted to focus on my kids. Another man, Daryl Fwett, also testified. His relationship had also ended because of an affair with John, although police had initially considered Daryl a person of interest. They ruled him out due to a solid alibi. Daryl admitted to deleting data from his phone before speaking with police, but expressed frustration over being pulled into the investigation. I had nothing to do with this, he insisted. Both men testified that, while John's actions had hurt them, they had no reason to want him dead. They blamed their failed relationships on their ex-partners, not John. They had moved on, placing the past behind them. When Eric Thompson finally took the stand, he shared his perspective on discovering his wife's affair. He explained how John had helped both him and Joyce during their fertility struggles and how shocked and betrayed he felt when he found out about the late-night rendezvous. After reviewing footage from his home security cameras showing Joyce sneaking out at 1 a.m., Eric was dumbfounded. It didn't make sense, he said. John helped us through the pregnancy. Why would he blow it up later? Eric described his initial anger and confusion. In the days following his discovery, he contemplated confronting John, but soon realized that nothing he said would fix the situation. What's the point, Eric reflected. John clearly didn't care about what I thought or about my family. Despite the affair, Eric and Joyce tried to repair their marriage. Joyce agreed to stop seeing John, and over the following months, they worked to rebuild their relationship. She was truly sorry, Eric told the court. She made the effort, and we almost got back to where we were before. The case, once simple, had now become a tangled web of betrayal, lies, and doubt. The perfect image of both John Tokuhara and Eric Thompson was shattered, leaving the jury to untangle the truth. Eric Thompson testified that after discovering his wife Joyce's affair, he came to realize that the issue wasn't with John Tokuhara, but with his own relationship. He admitted to taking Joyce for granted and neglecting her, but emphasized that once Joyce cut ties with John, the acupuncturist became irrelevant in their lives. Despite this, Eric flatly denied being the driver of the white Silverado seen near the crime scene on the night of John's murder, and he adamantly rejected any involvement in Tokuhara's death. During cross-examination, Eric's apparent acceptance of the affair was probed further. The prosecution pressed him on the details of Joyce's relationship with John, asking if Joyce had told him she said "I love you" to John and if Eric had seen any of the messages, photos, or videos shared between the two. Eric admitted that Joyce had mentioned the exchange of love between her and John, but maintained that he never looked through her phone after learning about the affair, choosing to trust her instead. 11 days before the murder, Eric and Joyce signed a post-marital agreement stating that Eric would receive the house and sole custody of their daughter if they divorced. The prosecutor suggested that Eric had coerced Joyce into signing the agreement, while the defense argued that it was Joyce's idea, a gesture to prove her loyalty and commitment to never be unfaithful again. Yet cracks in their relationship persisted. Eric revealed that he had insisted Joyce stop seeing psychics after one had encouraged her to continue the affair. He described her reliance on psychics as an addiction, comparing it to alcoholism. Although Joyce agreed to stop consulting psychics, in December 2021, just a month before John's murder, she reached out to one again. The prosecution portrayed this breach of trust as evidence that the marriage had not healed, despite Eric's claims. On the night of the murder, Eric's movements came under scrutiny. He testified that his truck left the driveway at 5:20 p.m. to dump bricks at a nearby convenience center, then later left again to buy food. However, the prosecution called a security guard from the dump who claimed he had never seen Eric there, and that the bricks Eric supposedly dumped were prohibited. Additionally, surveillance footage of Eric's truck showed an empty bed, with no visible load of bricks, contradicting his testimony. Later that night, neighbors' cameras captured flames emanating from Eric's backyard for 5 minutes. Eric explained this by saying he frequently lit tiki torches when spending time outside with his daughter, and his defense called a fire expert to testify that the flames could indeed have been from torches. Eric also claimed that the burn marks found on a bucket and wheelbarrow in his yard were from melting metal for work projects, not evidence of destroying anything related to the murder. The defense raised further doubts about the DNA evidence tied to the bucket hat found near the crime scene. Their expert testified that the DNA samples from the hat were inconclusive, suggesting Eric might not have been the source at all. With inconsistencies in the surveillance footage, the defense argued that the state had failed to definitively place Eric at the scene. They also pointed to discrepancies in the timestamps on various security cameras, which investigators had to adjust to fit the timeline of the Silverado's movements and the murder. Despite the prosecution's theory that Eric was the man in the bucket hat who entered the clinic and shot John, they struggled to align the timeline. The arrest affidavit stated that John was killed at 6:16 p.m., but his phone was unlocked 2 minutes later, and his Pokemon Go app appeared to be active for hours after his presumed time of death. This raised questions about whether John could have still been alive past 8 p.m., which cast further doubt on the prosecution's theory. Throughout the trial, Joyce Thompson did not testify, protected by spousal privilege. While the defense focused on John's secret life and questionable relationships, the prosecution argued that Eric's lies about his whereabouts on the night of the murder revealed his guilt. After 3 days of deliberation, the jury remained deadlocked. 9 jurors voted to convict Eric, while 3 believed he should be acquitted. With the lack of concrete evidence, the jurors struggled to reach a unanimous decision, leading Judge Paul Wong to declare a mistrial. "It was hard to get everybody on board for one decision," a juror later remarked.